is Angelica Kauffman? Angelica Kauffman is a Swiss neoclassical painter who had a successful career in both London and Rome in the 18th century. She is remembered as a history painter and also a portraitist. And in fact, she did many portraits of countesses and other women at the time. I'm Dr. Megan Lorraine Debin, and I'm an art historian, and this is Art Trippin Lecture Series.
Hi, I'm Dr. Megan Lorraine Debin, and this is Art Trippin.
Now, you have to remember that women were, although they could be admitted to the academy, they were barred from studying live nude figure drawing. And so they were also sort of barred from creating history paintings from live models. So artists like Angelica Kauffman had to overcome this kind of lack of firsthand access to nude models and had to rely on prints, classical sculptures, and perhaps assistance from friends for props and poses. She's known for painting portraits of wealthy individuals, as well as what we might consider more kind of classical history paintings associated with the neoclassical style. Let's look at this example. Cornelius presenting her children as her treasures from 1785. So Angelica Kauffman depicts this story from ancient Rome of this woman who is, an aristocratic woman. Here you see her dressed in this red gown. She is opening up her jewelry box, showing off her jewels and her necklaces, all of her emeralds and rubies to show her wealth. And she asks this other woman, "Where are your treasures?" And here Cornelius, who is a humble woman, she is not vain and interested in jewels, and instead she presents her children as her jewels. This is really creating this notion of a good motherhood and that devotion to children is a virtue, whereas, being interested in money and jewels is not an attractive quality for a woman at the time. Now, of course, these are neoclassical ideals, and they're very much coming in contrast to the ideals of the excessiveness, the frivolity, and the really obscene wealth of the aristocrats in late 18th century. So you have to really understand the context. I think we can relate to this in our contemporary times when we think about the 1%, when we think about billionaires amassing just obscene amounts of wealth while people are starving in the streets, people are unable to have food and housing. This is really the historical context of the late 18th century, and it helps us understand these ideals that were promoted through neoclassical painting. Now, when you look at a painting like this by Kauffman, or when you look at David's Oath of the Horatii, you can see that there are specific ideas about masculinity and femininity that are expressed here. Women are depicted in a negative way in David as overly emotional, whereas in David, the contrast, we see these strong, powerful men who are committing to stand up for the patria over their emotional or romantic connections. So in many ways, a painting like David's Oath of the Horatii is helping to create the gendered norms for the time, but also reinforcing pre-existing gender norms at the time. And you can see that these ideas of the patriarchy are damaging to people of all genders. The ideal man must be strong and powerful. He must not weep and cry. So men are not allowed to have any, contact with their emotional selves in this traditional idea of masculinity. And we see that women are depicted as overly emotional, or in Kauffman's painting, a negative trait for women would be to be like, this is sort of the archetype of the gold digger, to be obsessed with money, to be obsessed with superficial things. I'm thinking of like the Kardashians. And in contrast, we can see Cornelius as this, ancient trad wife representing these really restrictive gender roles at the time. So things that we are experiencing in contemporary culture, the 1%, billionaires, trad wife, gold digger, all of these tropes and roles that women are kind of pushed into in a modern context have a lot of their roots in the Enlightenment ideals of the 18th century. So we need to look at these moments in history with a critical lens and not just romanticize our ideas about what the Enlightenment was. So I kind of went off on a random tangent talking about gender roles and talking about the billionaire class and the impending French Revolution at the time. But let's close with another painting by Angelica Kauffman. Here we're looking at Ariadne, who has been abandoned by Theseus. This is from 1774. This is again a story from classical mythology. Ariadne is a mortal woman who helps Theseus slay the Minotaur. Theseus is this Athenian who comes to the island of Crete to conquer the Minotaur. And so to get out of this maze that he would otherwise be trapped in, Ariadne betrays her father and helps Theseus. She gives him a ball of yarn, basically, or string, and so that he can follow this string to get his way out of the labyrinth of King Minos. On their way back to Athens, they stop at the island of Naxos. And while they're on the island of Naxos, Ariadne falls asleep. She awakens and Theseus is gone. Theseus has abandoned her and gone back to Athens. Ariadne wakes up alone, and you can see her just awaking from her slumber, and you can see this boat off in the distance. That is Theseus abandoning her on the island. Now, the thing is, Ariadne doesn't do so bad. She ends up living on the beautiful island of Naxos in Greece. She eventually marries Dionysus, the god of wine, and is a devotee of the cult of Dionysus on the island of Naxos. So she turns out okay. So here we see Angelica Kauffman really looking back to classical Greek mythology for inspiration, and we see in a true neoclassical style this very earthy, warm color palette and a very tight and smooth rendering of the subject matter. Hopefully you enjoyed this video about Angelica Kauffman. If you want more videos about women artists in particular, or anything else, let me know in the comments. What do you want to see more videos about? Like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Art Trippin'.